Hey guys, welcome to another movie review. Today I'm going to be talking about the film Downsizing. This is my review for the movie. This film is directed by Alexander Payne, who made a film a while ago called Sideways with Paul Giamatti. Really like that movie a lot. It's such a great buddy film. That one involved two guys going on a wine tasting road trip and things kind of not going the way they planned. He also did a film that I really liked with George Clooney called The Descendants with a man working for a hospital that finds out what his wife was doing before she ended up in a coma and all these like really horrible things she was doing behind his back, and kind of all these little goofy things that happen along the way while he finds out about all that stuff. So basically, Alexander Payne is a guy where whenever he makes a film, more than likely I'm going to be very interested in seeing it. He's made a couple of films that I really wasn't a huge fan of, but for sure Sideways and for sure The Descendants were the two films that I've seen from him so far that I really enjoyed. So I went into Downsizing pretty optimistic. I thought I was kind of hoping to be like a Honey, I Shrunk the Kids for adults kind of thing. And I kind of got that movie, but let's go into detail here of what Downsizing is really about. Non spoiler review as always. This film is about an occupational therapist played by Matt Damon, and him and his wife are running into financial issues. They've been living in the same house for a while, but after a while, the house's value kind of went up in price, and neither one of them can afford it anymore, so they have to look into cheaper houses and stuff. But they hear about this process that's kind of been getting really popular over the years. The film kind of starts out with people kind of fighting out about this opportunity called downsizing, and it kind of really got popular over the years. This film takes course over the course of many years. So after a while, it's an idea that kind of sunk in with people over time. Even if people didn't pursue it yet, a lot of people were aware of downsizing and everything. And so they find out through the wife and through financial supervisors that if they do get downsized, and live in this place called Leisureland, it'll save them tons of money. The money that they have will be financially more significant than the real world. So if they find a place when they're downsized, it's going to be more affordable than a place out in reality where they're big, and it's going to be hard finding a house for them if they remain big. So the two of them, they think it through. They really kind of look at everything that they have, and so they figure, let's go the downsizing route. It's going to be tough leaving friends and family behind, but if you find a house while we're downsized, hopefully that will make new friends and all that kind of stuff, and make the right choice, and hopefully this will be the best financial choice for us. So Matt Damon and his wife, played by Kristen Wiig, they go to the place where people do get downsized, and it's a kind of an entire 5-hour process to do it. But I guess all I can say without spoiling the movie is there's something that happens with Matt Damon's character that didn't completely cross over when he gets downsized. So now Matt Damon has to adjust to the life of a downsized man. Obviously the house he's living in is more affordable. It's more of like a mansion-like place. Tons of things are available to him. He has basically he's basically living the life of a rich man because all the money he had from when he was big is now worth millions in the downsized world of Leisureland. So he's trying to adjust to this life. He has kind of some weird neighbors and some things that happen to him, and some things since he was an occupational therapist that come up that are kind of working to his advantage while he's downsized. So he has to figure out all this stuff and adjust to a new life of a downsized man. So overall, guys, I thought Downsizing was okay. It's one of those weird films where halfway into it, I was really happy with what I was seeing, but when I got to that halfway point and the film kind of goes a different direction once Matt Damon is downsized, I wasn't as happy with it as I thought it was going to be. It became one of those films where the direction they were going I was happy with, but then by a certain point in the movie, that direction stops and it goes a completely different direction. And I don't know if I approve of the different direction. It just felt a little too different for a movie like this. Um, but I liked it overall, I guess. But when they take a different direction, it goes a really different direction, and there's things about it I really don't care for. But overall, for my positives and negatives of downsizing, I think this is a very unique concept, specifically about downsizing, how it's kind of more affordable to live this way. However money you have out in reality is becoming more valuable when you're downsized. So if you have $125,000 out in reality, that's going to be worth millions of dollars when you're downsized. Um, it's just a very unique concept. I just like the idea of people getting this opportunity to do something very drastic, but once it's drastic and you've done it, you have all the stuff available to you. You have a more open life. You don't have to worry about work as often. Working $12 an hour job is going to be worth much more when you're downsized. You're going to get paid more and stuff like that. So I like this concept of people going through this very harsh process, but if they go through it, they live a life that seems much happier and more open and more like a vacation. So I like this concept of, you get shrunken down to size, but you're with people who are also in the same process, and you're a wealthier person as a result. So I like this idea that Alexander Payne is working with. The film also has a message about going green and making Earth a longer place to live on. There's something that they kind of briefly touch on once Matt Damon is downsized, and that's about methane gas is kind of hurting the Earth and so forth, and how it would have helped if more people got downsized and learn the values of it and learn that there's technology available to the downsized that is harder to come across when you're big. So I like this idea of being more green about things and finding ways to make the earth live longer and to make better use of the earth since it's so huge. And if everybody got downsized, that would make Earth a more open-ended place to live on. You could do more with the land and so forth. So I like this idea of finding ways for Earth to live longer than how it already stands now. There's also a lot of funny moments in this film. Alexander Payne is always really good at this. Sideways had tons of these moments. The Descendants had a couple of these moments. Downsizing, thankfully, has some pretty funny moments as well, specifically about the size of the characters. Probably some of the funnier moments to me is when Matt Damon and his wife are learning about downsizing, and they always see like these little glass boxes moving around of people carrying them, and that's supposed to be like the downsized person moving around and giving speeches to the bigger people and stuff. It just looks really funny how like they're just like these little doll people in these boxes, and that their voice boxes don't change, like they don't get shrunken down in size with their voice or anything. So there's some funny moments in this film. So thankfully, Alexander Payne's sense of humor is very present in this movie. There's also some fun green screen effects in this film. Um, you can tell that there's a lot of scenes where they had to really be careful about the size and how big something is when a person is downsized, and when or what a person who is downsized, how that's going to look compared to someone who's still big. So just some fun green screen effects that they worked with to really make sure that the audience is watching something either really big going down to something small, or something small going up to something really big. So just some fun green screen effects I thought they played around with in this movie. Matt Damon's health profession of being an occupational therapist, they play around with this a lot, and it's one of the few things that I liked when he gets downsized is they play around with the career that he once had and how it's difficult to pursue that career once he's downsized, and it's harder to renew his license for that job and so forth. So I like how they played around with his profession a lot. It gave something more interesting for his character before he got downsized and after he got downsized. But for my negatives of downsizing, I feel like it runs out of steam in the second half. Once Matt Damon is downsized, the film really kind of loses intrigue and just things that were making it interesting. There's even points in the film where I had to remind myself that I'm watching downsized people, just because it basically just looks like reality with a lot of larger objects that people have to work around and so forth. So I do feel like the film runs out of steam and good ideas by the second half. So unfortunately, that's not a good thing when you completely lose interest in something by the second half of the movie. That's usually not a good thing. I also feel that downsizing is about 25 minutes too long. I think it's about 2 hours and 15 minutes. I've yet to see a comedy that needs to be longer than 2 hours. Um, this film for sure really need to be trimmed down by a good solid 25 minutes. There's just so many scenes when he's downsized that really don't need to be in this movie. Without spoiling anything, there's this party scene that just goes on forever and ever and ever, and it really has nothing to do with this movie at all. And it goes on forever. And it's, like I said, about 25 minutes of this film easily could have been trimmed out. So that's one thing about this film I think could have easily been improved, is just making it a shorter film to sit through. Another thing I can't talk about for too long because it could be spoiler territory is the subplot that involves Matt Damon kind of moving on from something that happened when he got downsized. There's a subplot that goes on for a long time with this too, with somebody that he meets while he's downsized, and it really didn't work for me. They really try to play off it. They really try to make you feel for him and this person towards the end of this film. It really didn't work for me. This subplot really just fell flat from the get go. Really wish they could have gone with a different subplot for this movie. And there's also just not enough downsizing in this movie. There's just not enough about once Matt Damon is downsized, why is it important and significant that everything else is downsized? Because the plot that they go with once he is downsized, they could have done that while he was regular size too. So I just don't get the benefit this film has of while he's downsized. Why is it playing out like something that would just happen out in reality, out to somebody randomly out in reality too? So it just how they worked that in and how they decided to go with that. Just it wasn't a very creative and clever choice in my opinion. There's also a lot of wasted celebrity appearances and cameos in this film. Just like an actor or actress will show up for a little bit, and you might think they have a pretty big role in the film, and then they just kind of disappear out of the movie. And this happens a lot. A lot of celebrity appearances that really don't kind of mean anything after a while. So I thought that was pretty disappointing as well. I also thought the third act of this film was very slow paced. It just kind of took forever to make its point. And there's like several points where you think it's going to end properly there, and it keeps going. And by the time it does end, it doesn't really make a lot of sense. So overall, I'm going to give Downsizing a 7.5 out of 10. I think it's okay. There's good things about it, but there's also a lot of really bad things about it. So if you're a huge Alexander Payne fan, maybe rent this one at Redbox. Maybe only if you're a really huge fan of him. If you didn't like any of his films, if you really aren't interested in this film, I think you can skip this one. There's good things about it, but there's really not a lot of great things about it either. There's actually quite a few bad things about it. So 7.5 out of 10 for me. It's okay. There's a lot of problems with it though, and I really can only recommend it to the big Alexander Payne fans.